Oh, look at that. Leanna Carr doing some squats. Good job, Leanna Carr. Hey.
So we are good to go, and we are streaming now.
All right. Well, I just hope that we're not live because I don't want to mess anything up.
Uh, well, just from now on, don't mess anything up starting now.
Okay. Maybe you shouldn't record some of this because it's not going to be good.
Uh-oh.
I'm trying to post this picture. I just, I picked up these headphones and that left and right thing. I don't, am I the only person? But it really stresses me out. I'm not sure, like, what happens if you put them on the wrong way? Like, is it scientifically designed for the left ear and the right ear?
From what I understand, it's kind of like magnets. If you flip them around, it pushes away, so your brain might actually melt.
Yeah, is it like designed for the cerebral vortex, which is the left and right ear?
It's kind of like the flip before the bench press, the centrifugal force that adds a little bit of strength to your bench. It's kind of like the same thing, but if you flip the headphones around, your head will explode.
I wonder if it's anything like reversing the figure 4 leg lock.
Ah,
They talked about this on Joe Rogan more recently. Like when you roll over to your stomach, Ric Flair was the master of the figure 4 leg lock. And when Ricky Steamboat would roll over to his stomach, then it would reverse the figure 4 leg lock, and then Ric Flair would be the one in pain the whole time. It's pretty amazing.
has that been proven though?
Yeah, Bell Brothers have proved it many times over. I've been in the figure 4 leg lock one too many times. The camel clutch, the Iron Sheik's camel clutch, that move's no fucking joke. The abdominal stretch, that's a bad one. That one's hard to even get somebody into, especially if they're not like mobile at all. The abdominal stretch is a real motherfucker.
We used to do the rack in junior high. And it sucked because I was always the skinniest one. So, hey, let me throw you in a rack. What's that? And then I'm up above someone's shoulder.
Yeah. The rack, I think I'm not sure how many different guys have used it, but I know Lex Luger used to use it back in the day. Maybe somebody like Big Sexy, Big Daddy Cool, maybe he used it because a lot of the tall guys use moves like that. There's certain moves that just, that really hurt a lot. And the camel clutch is one of them. Boston Crab. Fucking Boston Crab.
Yep.
That's no joke. I don't even know if kids are doing that anymore.
They should be if they're not.
Kids horking each other in some of these moves anymore?
They're just cyberbullying.
Kids even using the word hork anymore. I mean, that's a valuable word that for some reason
I actually don't even know what that means.
I don't know. I love it. I love that word. I used to always refer to like my coach, my football coach, as horking his pants up too high. He horked him. He horked him up there too much. He hiked him up too much, We're
going to throw that in.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, Rob Edwards, what's the benefit of a 10-minute walk?
Yeah. So, first of all, in my opinion, I won't get too far off the subject. I'll cut back to the 10-minute walk. But in my opinion, there's only a couple ways that you can really show yourself that you give a fuck about yourself in the first place. And that is, A, to spend time with yourself. Okay, so that's number one. So a 10-minute walk would help accomplish some of that. Number two is to do something for yourself. So spend time with yourself is one thing. Number two is do something for yourself. So now we're killing two birds with one stone, which I've never actually done because that sounds actually kind of mean. But it sounds like we're killing two birds with one stone because we're spending time with ourselves and we're doing something for ourselves rather than just sitting around whacking off, which that could be beneficial as well. But in this case, we're doing something, well, I guess whacking off could be kind of healthy. In this case, we're knocking out, a 10-minute walk and doing something that's healthy for us. So the 10-minute walk can help stabilize blood sugar. You can help with your insulin sensitivity, which is a huge problem. A lot of people are insulin resistant, meaning their pancreas, their body functions normal. They're not type 1 diabetes. They're not type 2 diabetes. They don't have any diabetes quite yet, but they're starting to show signs of being pre-diabetic by developing what's called insulin resistant. And over 120 million Americans suffer from insulin resistance. That's just our adults. There's children and many young adults now that are having this issue as well. Your body produces insulin in a reaction to the amount of glucose that we take in, the amount of carbohydrates that we take in. We take in carbs, they turn into sugar in our bodies. Now, there may be a couple of things that I say wrong because I'm not a doctor. I'm not Lane Norton. I'm not Dr. Dominic D'Agostino, some of these guys we've talked to for our movie. But this is my general understanding of how some of this stuff works. Glucose comes into the body. A lot of times that will spike insulin levels. Protein has also been shown. Sometimes it can spike insulin levels when it's taken just by itself without any fat. But it will spike your insulin levels. Now, spiking the insulin level is a good thing because insulin usually signals, where these carbohydrates should go. And they're supposed to go to these cells. They're supposed to go to these muscle cells. Well, after a while, after you do that for years and years and muscle cells get full, your body continues to produce lots of insulin. And the body gets confused on where some of this insulin should go, or maybe it doesn't even get confused at all, but it just starts storing some of it as body fat as those other stores start to fill up. And another issue with producing too much insulin is that insulin can cause you to get hungry. And then so you're in a state where you're eating foods that aren't nutrient dense. We learned recently that being obese is a malnourished situation, which who would have thought that? You would have thought you had plenty of nourishment from being fat and from eating so much food, right? But you're not getting the nutrients that you want. And so your body's still craving nutrient. Your body's still craving these things. But the Doritos aren't quite covering your body's thirst for vitamin A, B, C, D, and so on. And because of that, you're still fucking hungry and you're not eating things that are productive. You're not eating things that are satiating. And you tend to store more and more fat as we get older. This becomes a bigger and bigger problem. Something like the 10-minute walk, in very simple terms, what a 10-minute walk can do for everybody in the United States and everybody in the whole entire world, rather, including my boy, Benedict Magnuson, who recently ripped off an 11-minute. I know. Everybody relax. The guy did a legit 11-minute. Andrew, you look like you're in total disbelief. This is a guy that has deadlifted, 1,015 pounds in competition. So I don't think without straps.
Damn.
This walk was done without straps. It was done to all the regulations. It was an 11-minute walk. He did it with his fluffy little dog. I saw at least a 15-second clip of it. So to me, that's verified.
But there's not an 11-minute clip of it, though.
There's, you know what? I didn't want to say that way. But what I do want to say is that I am flying him out here to Sacramento, West Sacramento, California, where Benedict Magnuson and I are going to do an 11-minute walk to prove to the world that it's possible.
That's insane.
I thought he did a great job with it.
That's cool.
Anyway, the point of doing this podcast, this style of podcast, is shorter format, which who knows how long it will run because I never shut up. But the point of this is to inspire you guys to get on your 10-minute walk. So hopefully when this pops up on your iTunes feed, hopefully it encourages you to get up off your couch and to get your ass walking. Now, the way that we're doing things now is we're filming everything live on YouTube. Soon we'll probably be live on some other stuff as we start to figure this out more, and as we start to try to take over the world more. But for now, we're live on YouTube. What I encourage all of you to do is not only be signed up for YouTube, because YouTube, for some reason, they don't have their shit together. They don't always inform everybody all the time of these live feeds, and it's a little bit harder to know where to go all the time. I believe this is powerproject.live.
Yes. Yeah.
This is powerproject.live. If you want to just type that into your URL, we're trying to make it easier for you to find it. But what I suggest, this is what I do at Joe Rogan's show, and I love listening to his show. He's got a lot of great guests on there all the time. If you're not following along with what they're doing, then you're missing out, because Joe Rogan is advanced and he's really doing some great things. And I'm inspired by the amount of activity that they have going on over there. But follow us on iTunes as well, because that's how I get informed of Joe Rogan's podcast. A lot of times that'll make me check out to see what else he's got going on. I might pop on his YouTube. And just the other day when he had Pat Miletich on, I caught the end of the Pat Miletich conversation live. There's something fun about watching these live. And so for those of you watching right now, you get the honor of checking this out live.
And also you get to interact with us. Such as Vanessa Fernandez. She wants to know if you actually track calories and how many meals per day do you have?
All right, Vanessa Fernandez, here's the deal. I do not track my calories. I do not prick my finger. I do not pee on keto sticks. I have done all of those things before. And what I used to do And this is like, I used to do this with a lot of things. I used to always want to like change people's lives. Well, I don't really want to change people. I want to encourage people. I want to inspire people, and I want to excite people to try new things. But I don't want to change you. So if you like writing stuff down and you like tracking stuff, then just track it. It's not wrong to track it. And I've apologize that if I ever had that message go across. When you're young and you're trying to get these messages across, you get fired up and you don't think about the consequences of some of the things that you might say. And so in the past, I'd be like, "Fuck that, man! You ain't got to track nothing." Mm. But if you like to track and if it makes you feel more sane, then who am I to tell you? And the other thing is, if you get results, you get results. Now, what I will say about tracking is a little bit like weighing yourself. In my book, The War on Carbs, plug, mm-hmm. I explain that I like to weigh myself every day. For some people, this could be detrimental. For some people, this is not a great thing. It worked really well for me. If you're weighing yourself every day and you're crying 3 times a week because you're not happy with the results, number one is maybe you shouldn't be weighing yourself every day. Number 2 is you should get your shit together so that you're not crying, so that you're a little bit more excited about your results. I've had months, I've had years where my body weight has been stuck. I've had weeks, years, I guess maybe no, I've had even years because the diet comes and goes. You go on and off the diet. But anyway, back to tracking calories. Ultimately, what I've learned from interviewing all these people that are coming on the podcast is that if whatever is going to get you the best results, whatever you can stick to for a long period of time. So if you're not used to writing down stuff, I wouldn't all of a sudden out of nowhere start getting in the habit of it and mix that in with a really strict diet. You're going to be pissed. So if you feel like tracking stuff and you feel like that's something that's worked for you in the past, then by all means do it. Last thing I'm going to mention is, remember, whenever you're starting any diet, let's not start in a reduced calorie state. Let's just get used to the foods first, and then let's kind of move from there. And so hopefully that helps answer your question. You could track if you'd like. Don't become too obsessed with it. Don't get all crazy about it. And my recommendation is that the first couple of weeks that you don't even track anything, you just get used to the foods and eat comfortable amounts of food so you're not hungry. Hopefully that helped.
Yeah. So being a 10-minute walk, we're already 13 minutes in. We can just split this up into 2.
Look at how that happened.
Yeah. Especially because we're getting some cool questions. I got one about a test ester. Do you have a favorite? And what's this? I'm trying to how do you like it compared to an ester, like Ethernet?
The Ethernet.
Ethernet, yeah.
No, so there's testosterone and anthate. There's testosterone cypionate. There's testosterone propionate. There's a bunch of different versions of all these different things, and some are fast acting, some are slow acting. I never really noticed a difference with any of them. They're all testosterone. They've all helped me lift some big weights. I think it would be a preference. I think, with the faster ester, then you have to shoot it more. And so that's has to do with like frequency. Mm-hmm. And maybe that doesn't suit you. Maybe that's not something that you want to get into. Maybe you don't want to have to take it often because it can be painful.
Gotcha. Do you want to keep going with a couple more questions?
Yeah, we might as well. Keep going in that direction.
All right. JTZR1. Along with him and someone on your Instagram I seen, but basically he's asking how much better do you feel 100 pounds lighter, and someone on I think your Instagram basically wanted to know like your strength difference being 100 pounds lighter.
Yeah, so I'll start out with the strength question first. It's hard to give that an honest answer. I was really, really fucking strong when I was really big, but I also didn't do a lot of raw lifting. You go back and watch some of the videos. I think it might be like the fuck your elbow video. There's a shot in there of me benching 5 plates like it's nothing for reps. And I want to say I did like 5 plates for like 7 reps at one point. But I did weigh 310 or something like that. At one point, my biggest was 330. I do recall a time as well where I was moving around like maybe about 675 or so for some reps and squat. And, I definitely had a lot of strength, for me to pull 675 and stuff like that. I was never a great deadlifter, but for me to lift those kinds of weights wasn't hard. And so at that time, I was very, very strong, but I was also lifting in powerlifting gear, and I was also routinely squatting over 1,000, routinely benching in the 800-pound range, and sometimes handling 900 pounds. I actually recall a training session where I benched 20 plates. Jeez. I lifted up, I bench pressed 20 plates, 10 plates on each side. So I did a lot of extraordinary and a lot of crazy things, but I was also on quite a bit of stuff back in the day. And, it was compromising my health, but at the time, the goal was the goal. The goal was to be big and strong. And, luckily for me at the time, even though I was huge, I didn't have extremely high blood pressure. I didn't really run into that many complications. I had some small complications that when I look back on them now, I think, wow, those were bigger risks than I ever really considered. So I had trouble sleeping. There was actually a 3 or 4 year period where I didn't sleep very much at all. I think people think I'm kidding about that, but I literally didn't sleep much at all. And I think actually it's part of how I was able to come up with the slingshot. I think having my mind, being out of my mind a little bit, it kind of helped in some weird way. Gotcha. But yeah, that in terms of strength at that time versus now, I would say that I would have put myself at, benching well over 550 raw. I would say I squatted about 700 raw, and I'd say I pulled about 700 raw. As opposed to now, a 400-pound bench would be kind of hard right at this very moment, just because this is the lightest I've ever been, period, and I haven't leveled off at this body weight yet. And a 600-pound squat and a 600-pound deadlift, I'm not in line for either one of those either. I'm probably more in like a 550 range if I'm being 100% honest. I've been out of sorts with the deadlift quite a bit, and squat-wise, the squat feels good, but the strength is down quite a bit. So that's some of the numbers, but they don't match up that great because of a million different reasons, some of them being performance enhancing.
Gotcha. So I don't know how Jay Weber something heard about it, but he's asking if the Eddie Hall interview is coming.
Oh, the other thing is the guy asked about how I feel. So that's actually really important. So how I feel versus my strength. I feel fucking awesome. I feel like I'm in a good position to reposition myself to get stronger again. And so that is going to be something I'm going to focus on. I'll probably try to gain some weight back, 10 pounds, 12 pounds, something like that. I definitely want to stay under 250 pounds. So I feel like I'm in a good spot from a health perspective. I'm sleeping a lot more, and a lot of these things are falling into place. I'm feeling really good with them. So hopefully I can get myself in a position where I can train hard enough to get stronger again.
Some of that is because now you're paying more attention to your body versus before when you're just, 100 miles per hour trying to get that big lift?
Yeah, I was competing, and right. Competing is not going to be healthy. And you're going to do any and everything you can to try to lift those big weights. And that was the goal. The goal was to lift as much weight as possible. That's no longer the goal. The goal is to have fun, have a great training session, be intense. What I'm trying to get something out of every workout. What I'm trying to get is I'm trying to make myself better. So the goal is still to get better, but just in a different way. Mm-hmm. I want to look better. I want to feel better. I want to move better tomorrow. And so when you think about moving better tomorrow, then you can't just go in and completely wreck yourself, when all you're thinking about is the weights that you want to move every day. You pour everything that you have into that, and you're not fucking worried about tomorrow at all. As far as Eddie Hall goes, we are interviewing Eddie Hall very soon. Coming up, I actually just ended up scheduling it with him today, and it should be, I'm trying to look at my phone. I want to say it's April something. Yeah, April. It's somewhere between April 2nd and April 5th, somewhere in that zone is where we're trying to narrow it down to. So, actually, April. What the hell's today?
Dude.
That's not too far away. Yeah. So it's like just
the 22nd today.
Yeah, it's like about 2 weeks away. We'll be interviewing Eddie Hall, and I think it's just a few days before he does his log press. And according to him, once the log press is done, then he's bowing out. Is what he's kind of told me. So it'll be interesting to hear more from him. On a final note, to end this podcast and to end your 10-minute walk, hopefully this fired you up to get your ass moving. Stan and Ryan on Efforting has had me incorporating a little bit of carbohydrates into my diet. I know the war on carbs, guys, eating some carbs, right? So I've had, and it's not every day, it's not every night, but I will occasionally incorporate a Japanese sweet potato. If you've never had one of those things, they're fucking awesome, really good. I just throw them in a pot, boil it for about 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and that thing's done. I throw some butter on that bitch and I eat it with some steak. A lot of times I'll just eat half of it because these potatoes can be rather large. And I don't want all the extra carbohydrates. And I'll have that maybe once a day. I'll have an orange here and there. I have about half an orange. Sometimes I'll have half an orange twice a day. Sometimes I'll have half an orange once a day. Sometimes I won't have the orange at all. It just kind of depends on the day. And the other thing I've been mixing in is some cranberry juice. So I've been having cranberry juice. The cranberry juice helps to provide some iodine. The orange juice helps to provide, now there's potassium in the orange juice and the cranberry juice as well, but I'm having very small amounts of both, and it's mainly just for their nutrients and not for really anything else. And so that's been going really good so far. Also, fructose can kind of stoke the liver. That's where T3 and T4 are made from what I gathered from Stan. Again, I could be saying that wrong. I ain't a doctor. But I have noticed that energy levels have gotten a little bit better. We're trying to see if we can increase my thyroid and my metabolism a little bit after all this dieting and stuff. And so we're trying to refurbish the metabolism. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Keep tuning in. Catch you guys later. I should have probably mentioned that on the way out.
That's all right. Everyone's still here.
All right, peeps, we're back. I know that's a little bit weird. From now on, we'll probably just try to roll into the next one. But for our purposes on our end, it was easier for us to cut it for a minute and to start over. So we're here with another 10-minute walk, and hopefully this is going to inspire you to get out and go on your 10-minute walk. The 10-minute walk is something that I got from Stan Efforting. Stan got it from some research that he read, and Stan wanted me to start to incorporate a 10-minute walk. And right away I was like, you know what? That ain't hard to do. I can go do a 10-minute walk. Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, see if you can do 2, 3, 2 or 3, here and there. And I was like, oh, yeah, like 2 or 3 a week or something. And he was like, no, 2 or 3 a day. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, well, how am I going to, I was kind of thinking, right away you're always putting up barriers, right? Everything in life, when somebody gives you some information, you're always kind of throwing up that barrier. You're like, I probably can't do that because of this. I got to work. I got this. I got that. But once I started messing with the 10-minute walk, I just started to incorporate it into my life. I just started to add it to my life. People often ask me, how do you mix business with family? How do you have a work-life balance? And the way I've always done that is to be inclusive rather than exclusive. And so I'll bring my children, I bring my wife with me on a lot of trips that we go to. And even trips that are meant just for family, those always turn into business trips as well. There's always some sort of business being arranged on all these trips. So even my trip this weekend to Washington, D.C., I'm really excited about. I'll end up going to some gym at some point and dropping off some slingshots, dropping off some hip circles, and making a contact with somebody. I also reached out to some friends in the NYC area to see if I could perhaps meet up with them, and we'll see what happens. It doesn't always have to be about business, but I figure when I'm in a given area, why not mix the two things together? And so same thing with fitness, same thing with your fitness. When it comes to training and when it comes to your diet, have it be part of your life rather than some external thing that you have to fight for that's so hard all the time. How much harder is it to go through In-N-Out Burger and order some burgers without the bun? It's not really that much harder. I mean, it does taste better with the bun, but exponentially, it doesn't taste that much better to where you can't not have the bun. It's like just, there's these things that you're going to do. The sacrifice for that is so small, but the benefit is so big. And the real benefit that people are missing is the habit that you're building up.
But Mark, it tastes so much better with the bun and fries.
Oh my God. And the shake.
Especially the shake.
Well, here's the problem with everything else, right? Here's the problem with the bun, the fries, and the shake. People often say that they want to be different. People will shave their head. People will color their hair purple. Our good friend Gita, who was part of our media team for a long time, she left on good terms, went and she took her very talented behind somewhere else, and she's working for somebody else now. She made a post the other day, and she just posted half her face. And she said, "Be weird." And all you could see is kind of this shaved head and this like kind of purple hair off to the side, And then you swipe, and it was like the rest of her. And she's beautiful. It was a great, great photo. She's very photogenic. She knows how to take pictures as well. She's a very pretty girl. And anyway, so I commented on there. I just like to blast people, especially everybody that works here. We all talk shit. We all make fun of each other. And I said, being your age, shaving your head and dyeing your hair purple is not being different. And I said something like, think of something else, And she just wrote back, and she wrote roasted or something on there, and we had a good,
so bad.
Yeah, we had a good laugh about it. But even in people's efforts to being different, they actually are still the same. People that think they're hardcore are not hardcore in other areas. Somebody might be hardcore at their lifting, but then they eat like shit. Like they'll say they're hardcore and how tough they are, and they come in here and they lift all these weights, or even another example would be they're an MMA fighter or a Marine. Like they're fucking real legitimate killers that like fight for the country, and then they go home and they eat fucking Fruity Pebbles. How savage is Fruity Pebbles? It's not savage at all, right?
What it is convenient though.
Yeah, it's convenient and it tastes fucking good. And there are things that over a period of time we're trying to really do when it comes down to our nutrition and with our health and with any of this stuff. You see all these entrepreneurs right now, talking about the grind and talking about waking up at 4 a.m. and it gets really preachy and it gets really bothersome at times. I'm probably guilty of it myself. You guys probably look at my stuff sometimes like, can't take one more fucking speech from Mark Bell. I can't handle it. Part of the reason for some of this though is to help to build habits. And so when you learn to abstain, it's like, when people are in a religion and they adhere to certain things within that religion. I mean, there's certain religions where they won't even, there's certain religions where the women will wear clothing that covers their whole body. Certain religions, the women, no one else will see the woman's hair. No one else will see the woman's hair on their head. Except for maybe a family member, maybe a brother, maybe a dad, somebody, until the woman is married. And I know that that's like going way too far that way. And the women that are in those religions are oppressed, and there's other problems, there's other issues. But being strict does have its benefits. What happens when the man, for the first time in his life, sees another woman's hair? The woman lets her hair down, and he sees their hair for the first fucking time in his life. That is going to cause a level of arousal that is at a whole new level. Can I get a hey now for that?
Eggplant emoji.
Maybe more than one eggplant. Maybe a couple eggplants sprout from something like that. So my point is that by starving some things off, you can end up with a really great reward. And I have a theory on this, on why everybody's so fat. I got a theory on how some of this has happened over the years. And I want to first point out is that, people tend to say fat and lazy. And they say them as if they're synonymous, as if it's sometimes they'll refer to it almost as the same thing, right? My mom, has been a hardworking person her whole life. She's also been somebody who's been very big her whole life. She's been somebody who's been very heavy her whole life. She's been fat. But my mom was not lazy. My mom worked very hard. My mom, she was a stay-at-home mom. And she was there for us. She never was not there. She was always there. She's always there for us. Making us sandwiches, making us dinner, helping us clean up our room, doing our, cleaning our fucking football uniforms after practice, driving us to school or driving us to an activity or supporting us at a weightlifting meet or just anything. She was always there at everything. Just so happens that she was heavy. She had a real problem with her food, and she always has. Now, she also had some unfortunate circumstances when she was younger. She grew up in a very kind of hostile environment. Both her parents were addicted to alcohol, and it wasn't a great environment. Didn't make her feel good about herself, even though she helped raise my aunts and uncles and stuff like that. She wasn't appreciated, and she was called fat by her dad. And she'd been big her whole life since she was even when she had me and had my brothers and stuff. Even kind of before that, she was even just a bigger girl. Not that she was like fat by any means, but she was just a bigger girl. She always had some extra junk in the trunk, if you will. Anyway, what happens is, though, over the years, if you have similar eating habits from when you're young and you don't really learn a lot from it, and then there's maybe points in time where you have kids, you become sedentary, you're not moving as much, maybe you're just not really thinking about it as much, maybe you're not noticing as much, but slowly but surely, your habits for your nutrition have kind of chipped away at who you are. Your habits, you've gotten more and more lenient because each and every day is stressful. You're worried about how your kid's performing in school. You're worried about your son because he has a concussion in football. You're worried about this. You're worried about your middle child, my brother Chris, because he's short and he feels bad about being short. You're worried about Mad Dog because he's got a temperament. You're worried about your youngest son because he can't fucking learn shit in school. You start to build up all this stress, and what happens is you start to get behind. You start to fall behind, and you're so caught up in all the actions of your family. You're so caught up in what everybody else is doing. You're not really truly doing anything for yourself any longer. And you end up fighting each and every day behind. And I know because I grew up with this and I've seen this. I also know because I actually lived this. I've actually was this person before. And actually still this day. I mean, we all get behind, right? I mean, we all fall behind. We all fall behind on payments. We all fall behind on homework. We all fall behind on our work. We all fall behind on telling our significant other how much we love and care about them. You ever just stop every once in a while and just think to yourself, you know what? I need to go, in your case, your girlfriend, Andrew, and in my case, my wife. I'm like, I'll just stop every once in a while and be like, you know what? I just need to grab a hold of her and just tell her I love her and just give her a fucking big old fat kiss.
Absolutely.
Like, not a sexual, like, hey, I'm going to grab your ass type thing. I mean, of course, we all do that because we're disgusting. We're dudes.
I did it this morning.
Ladies, we're going to check your oil as much as fucking possible. And if you're a quart low, we might try to fill you up. You know what I mean?
Hey, now.
But sometimes you need to stop and think about that for a second. You need to say, you know what? I need to just tell my kid, like last night, my son went to bed and he and I watched TV together. And I followed him when he went to go brush his teeth. And I just said, hey buddy, I was like, I know you're 14. I know this is weird, But I just want to tell you, I love you so much. I'm really proud of you, and that was a lot of fun watching TV with you. He's like, all right, Dad, I love you too. And I went to bed. It's like, I know that those things are hard. They're not always easy to do. For some reason, it's even harder with family members to just tell them that you fucking care. And that they make a difference. I tell my daughter every day. She's 10, and so all she does is mock me all the time. She's like, I know, Dad. You tell me every day. And I was like, well, you can't ever love somebody too much.
Your dad seems pretty awesome. But, growing up, did he show a lot of affection towards you guys? Because for me, it's pretty hard to like go to my daughter and be like, babe, I love you. Like, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Or to go up to Stephanie. Like, it's pretty easy for Stephanie because she has changed me quite a bit for for the better. But growing up, like telling my dad I loved him or something like that, not that I didn't or that there was a problem. It's just we just never did it because he's so macho, you know, like, so now it's kind of hard for me.
Yeah, I think my dad, my grandfather, you know, he built his own house. He fucking built his own cars and things like that. And so he was, you know, he was very masculine. Yeah. You know,
man's man.
He's a fucking man's man, you know, and my dad grew up with a lot of that. I wouldn't really say they grew up with like tough love because my grandfather wasn't a hard ass in that way. It wasn't like he, you know, instilled discipline in them by being like fearful. He was more loved, you know, and so was my dad was kind of similar. But yeah, definitely when I was a teenager, I didn't tell my dad I loved him. Right. Like it was fucking seems gay, you know, and my brothers were always telling me everything's gay. So I was confused on what's gay and what's not gay. I'm like, I don't even know what's going on anymore.
Just the second you show any affection, they're just exactly like, dude, why are you being gay? Like,
yeah.
Fuck, I'm not. But like, I'm just trying to tell you guys I love you.
Yeah, or they'd be like, you're a fag because we heard you tell mom that you love her and you gave her a kiss. Be like, what?
Like,
how?
Hold on.
What did you just say? I'll be like, what the? I don't even know what's going on. I'm fucking 7.
Or it's even worse when you do something for like your girl, you get her flowers. So I'm dude, you're such a fag. Like, it's like, wait, hold on.
Yeah, what are you doing? You know what's funny about that is that my wife would call me a fag if I did that. By the way, we're not trying to offend anybody. So we're not trying to.
Thanks for clearing that up.
Sometimes people get a little weird when we're talking about these things.
Yeah.
But back to my fucking hypothesis that I was talking about. I really feel that a big problem is that people are behind. And I think what happens in a given day is, you know, we tend to want to talk ourselves out of things. Our thoughts become our actions, right? The actions start to become our habits. We start to develop bad habits over time. The thoughts, the habits, the actions, they all start to be intertwined into this fucking thing, right? And it starts to become such a thing that you're not as free as you think you are. You think you're free to do certain things, but you're fucking not. You're not nearly as free as you think you are. You're fucking tied down to everything. You're tied down to your job. You're tied down to your family. You're tied down to all the responsibilities that you have in a given day. Those stresses are there. Those stresses are painful. And what ends up happening is over time, this starts to wear people down and they just start reaching for foods that are just convenient, that are just sitting there, that just fucking taste good. And it's the only pleasure that people have in a given day, all the way to the point where people don't even really have sex anymore. People have sexless marriages. It's fucking insane. People, they gain a lot of weight together. They live a lot of stress together. They're worried about money. They're worried about A. They're worried about B. They're worried about C. And these two people that decided they want to fuck each other for the rest of their lives no longer even sleep in the same fucking bed sometimes. I mean, a lot of crazy things happen within these relationships. And how do they happen? In my opinion, they all happen from being behind. They still say that couples, the number one reasons why couples split up is because of finances. And, you know, I thought it'd be Instagram, but the number one reason is still, I don't know, you know, maybe people are fucking lying. I don't know. But like, it's still a huge thing that people are pissed at each other about finances, which is an interesting thing because finances shouldn't really factor into your love. Finances shouldn't really factor in to your passion. Sometimes finances have to factor in because we are dealt some doses of reality. And that's going to settle in, and you do have to figure out, yeah, I can't just be passionate about being an artist. And I can't just not make any money. But that doesn't mean you fold up. Doesn't mean you fucking give up. People are fighting every single day of their life behind. They are, what I see happening, people are at work too late. Then they get home, they get in trouble by their wife or significant other or even their children. They're getting yelled at by that. Then they're late to dinner. Then they're late to watch their favorite show. They're stressed. They'll eat whatever the fuck's in front of them at that point. Maybe the wife's pissed and she didn't cook anything. I know every household is a little different. I know the wife doesn't always cook nowadays. I know things are different, ladies. Relax. And so maybe the dude's got to grab some fucking McDonald's on his way home or whatever the case is. But because you're stressed and because you're behind. And then you go to bed late. A lot of men go to bed a half hour, an hour, 2 hours later than their spouse. And it's like, well, now we're starting to go to bed different time. I mean, things are just starting to get fucking weird. There just starts to get to be these gaps in the relationship. There starts to be, and these are all problems. And people will, I hear these things, when we get together with friends and family and go to, now people are going to watch themselves when they're around me, but you get around parties and stuff and you'll hear, the spouse might say, oh, she never puts out, or he never does this, or and you start to hear that. And I just sit there, I'm like, man, I wish they would actually, not that my wife and I talk about every single thing, but we really do try. We try to talk about everything because these little jokes and these little jabs, man, they ain't funny. If somebody ain't getting a blowjob at home, there might be fishing around somewhere else for one. I know that we're talking about being behind, and I know that we're talking about diet, and I know we're talking about habits, but all these things factor in because we're talking about real life situations. And if you ain't happy, then you're not going to be doing good stuff for yourself. And if you're falling behind, you're going to be miserable. Your thoughts become your actions become your habits start to become part of your character, to the point where when you're around other people, you're like thinking to yourself, you know what? These people know that I wouldn't be caught dead eating that in front of them. And so therefore you're like, fuck, I can't even do that. So me as Mark Bell, the position I'm in now, I can't just like roll in here and fucking eat a big thing of donuts. I can't do that anymore. I got the War on Carbs book out. I lost 100 pounds. I'm preaching all these things to people. And if I'm not practicing what I'm preaching, then what the fuck am I doing? So I just see that each and every day. People are behind. And the only way to get ahead is to win. And the only way to win is to be prepared. And you have to be prepared for every single day. When I started lifting years and years ago, and I started finding out about post-workout nutrition, and I started finding out about nutrition in general, I started thinking about meal prep. I didn't cook on Sunday the way a lot of people do now and cook for the whole week and stuff like that. But I started just thinking, I was like, you know what? I need to be prepared for my food because recovery is a big part of this. And I just started to get all in. And I started to try to figure out ways of getting ahead. I started watching videos of Louis Simmons. I started to go around the country with money I didn't have. I started to go to seminars. I started to figure all this stuff out. And at least in the lifting community, I was figuring out a way to get ahead. And as you start to get ahead, then you're going to start to win. As you start to win, then you'll start fucking feeling good. But it's impossible to win when you're behind. It's impossible to do things that are good for yourself. It's impossible to feel good about yourself when you're behind. One of the only ways, in my opinion, to really show that you truly love yourself is to do things for yourself, to be with yourself. And one of the things that you can truly do for yourself is to work out. Andrew and I worked out yesterday. We worked out this Sunday as well. And both times I didn't really want to work out either time. Actually, yesterday when I worked out, I was like, I was in there doing kind of a cardio session. I was trying to do a certain amount of heartbeats per minute type deal. I got the workout from Joel Jameson. And I was like, I'll just go in and kind of test it out and I'll fucking dick around for 10 minutes. Well, I ended up just doing the full workout. We ended up working out for about 35, 40 minutes or so. It ended up being a great workout. And Andrew ended up walking in on something he didn't want to walk in on either, but he was like, I'm going to go throw on my fucking trousers and we're going to throw on my trunks and we're going to get after it and we're going to do a workout. So we fucking did it.
And it was an awesome workout. But it was one of those things where like, I would not have done it if you weren't there. Like if you went home, I would have went home.
Well, and I would have went at a slower pace than what you were doing if I was by myself, probably.
Right.
Instead, I'm like, okay, well, Andrew's with me. Now I need to try to fuck him up at least a little bit. I'm going to try to outwork him and just show him what's up. And so, like, that's what you do. That's how it works.
Yeah, I died a little. Just a little bit.
It was hard, man. You know, I was trying to get my heart rate up to about 160 beats per minute. And, you know, I was trying to keep that throughout. But, you know, going back to this point, people are they're consistently talking themselves out of stuff. My mother has a physical therapy appointment. She had this problem with her leg forever. We all know that she probably just needs to lose some weight and that would help some things, but she's in a lot of pain. She has trouble walking, so she has trouble moving and so on. And so the whole thing just gets complicated. I got a little bit off on a tangent and forgot to mention, you know, a lot of times people don't just choose to be fat, and they also don't just end up being fat. It's a cascade of things that happen. Their insulin levels start to go through the roof. They start to become insulin resistant. Over a period of time, they become fatter and fatter and fatter, even while they're on a similar diet. They may not even get any worse with their food choices. They just might be consuming a similar amount of calories, but they're just getting fatter because they've slowed their metabolism down so much and they're moving so little and there's so much pain that's what gets worse and worse. And nobody really truly wants to be that way. People do not want to be in pain. So try not to be so judgmental. I know it's hard. But I've seen doctors talk about this in the past and they really regret when they've been, you know, they have a pediatric patient. They'll have a young person with pediatric cancer, and they might treat that person completely different than they might treat someone who's 400 pounds, who's got something wrong with their foot because they're diabetic. It isn't the same thing. The kid that got no kid should have to go through fucking anything. I mean, we'd love to see children be as healthy as possible, right? But at the same time, you know, don't judge a book by its cover every single time. Different people have different circumstances. We're all a fucking sandwich away from sliding downhill pretty fast. We're all a fucking painkiller away from being hooked on them. Most of us are all very close to a lot of those things and have seen it in our own family. So don't look down on people. That doesn't help the situation, I guess, is my main point. Complaining about it and just telling people that they're lazy does not help anything. That's my main point. Is that's not going to help the situation at all. Massaging the situation and telling people it's going to be okay, that doesn't fucking help either. So we do need to tell people, hey, you're fucking fat, and I want to fucking help you. Like, you shouldn't be this heavy. You shouldn't look this way. You shouldn't feel this way. It's not normal. It's not normal for you to have high blood pressure. It's not, these things are not normal. And so telling people that you care about them, that you want to see them make changes is probably, you know, more applicable, but it can be super difficult. But in my mom's situation, she has a PT appointment. She's been, you know, going from doctor to doctor, trying to figure out what's wrong. I don't think she still knows what's wrong, but they think some physical therapy can help quite a bit. And so she has an appointment today. And my dad said, yeah, I was talking to your mom this morning about her appointment. She was like, oh, it figures I have it today. My hand is numb and my back is really hurting today. She's like, I don't think I'm going to go. I don't think I'm going to keep the appointment. And so there she is doing what everybody else does, talking herself out of it. Be careful with the talk that you have with yourself. Be careful of this self-talk that you have. It's really, really important. It's important that you get a warrior mindset and you don't get a worrier mindset, because worrying about shit doesn't really do anything. Complaining about stuff doesn't really do anything. It doesn't really get us anywhere. It doesn't really change. If you're complaining to try to improve something, if you're like, hey, here's the 5 things that are wrong with this thing. And I wonder if there's a way for them to be more like this. That's a little bit different, because you're kind of weighing out the pros and the cons. But if you're just bitching to bitch, you can rest assured that not only will you stay in the same place, but you'll probably end up going backwards more often than not. So your thoughts become your actions. I say this all the time. And if you're talking yourself out of things, I mean, think about how ridiculous it is. You talk yourself out of going to the bathroom in the morning. You got to take a piss. And you're like, oh, I'm just going to stay in bed. You can't. It's not even fucking logical. You can't stay in bed. You're going to fucking piss yourself, you idiot. So wake the fuck up and go use the bathroom and get your fucking day started. But, you know, you just tend to, I know because I do this. We're all fucking.
That 5 extra minutes of sleep is so beneficial.
So powerful. Andrew, when you came in here today, I was like, he must have got that 5 extra minutes of sleep. Look at him.
You saw that.
He's a fucking goddamn Wolverine today. He's on.
Science has just proved it.
He's a fucking honey badger today. I don't know. Normally he comes in, he's very docile, but today he came in and he was like ready to fucking chew the tires off a bus.
Yep. I hit snooze and, went through the whole extra 5 minutes and I felt great.
How long did this 10-minute walk go for?
Oh man, I think we're roughly half an hour in now.
Oh my God. Anyway, that's pretty much my rant on a lot of that. What are some things that fucking slow you down, Andrew? What are things that get in your way? Is it like work? Is it relationship? Is it all the above?
So a little bit of everything, but and not to kiss anyone's ass or act like I'm like the company man or whatever, but honestly, work is the main thing. Whether it's the podcast, whether it's photos, whatever it is, it's going to push back my day. So if that pushes back my, you said it perfectly yesterday. If I want to train Friday morning, I should probably prep for it right now. And so what ends up happening is I'll stay up late finishing a podcast, finishing a photo set or something. And that pushes back, hitting that snooze button and getting the extra 5 minutes, which eventually turns into an extra hour. I get here a little bit later, then my work gets, and it's just the same cycle over and over. And I don't want to push my family to the side, because the other thing that you told me is when I'm with my family, be with my family. And that's been huge because I can tell my girlfriend's way happier. I get to spend time with my daughter. I took her skating the other day. It's
fuck yeah, dude. Yeah, you didn't tell me that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool because the day before, she got picked up a little bit earlier, so we ended up getting not that much skating time in. And then so the next day I was like, I am going to get home and we're going to go skating, and we did, and it was fucking awesome. But then that pushes other things okay, so that 1 hour window, now that means instead of going to bed at 9, I'm going to bed at 10, which of course never is the case. I end up going to bed at 11, 12, waking up feeling like shit. So for me, it's getting tasks done in a timely manner in order for me to get shit done for the podcast. Cause I also, I want this podcast to kick ass, I'm not going to half-ass it. So that's the biggie for me, is pushing shit back so that way I can't wake up early enough to get here before work.
Yeah, a lot of things can wait till tomorrow. There's certain things, you'll have to kind of pick your poison, and you'll also have to judge, who, if you're working for somebody, if you work for yourself, it's a little different, but if you work for somebody, you'll have to judge how, what's that relationship look like? When if I have a request and I say, hey Andrew, can you change the thumbnail for the podcast, if I text them at 10, it's mainly just because I don't want to forget. It's oh man, I wish we had a better picture, or I might know that we have a better picture of somebody,
right,
and I'll say, hey, can we change that, or can you change the title, because or even sometimes I'll go in, if I have the ability to, sometimes I'll change some stuff myself or whatever. But if I send it out, it's just because I don't want to forget it. And so for those people out there that have, that are working for somebody else, judge what that relationship looks like. Is your boss, does he think, and you might have to explain stuff to him in a certain way. You might have to say, because the boss, I guarantee you, doesn't know what it's like. That's why they have those shows where the guy's fucking undercover boss, right?
Right.
Because he doesn't really know what it's like. So if I go to Andrew and I'm on his case, which this has never happened, but he comes in the next day and I'm like, dude, why the fuck wasn't that changed overnight? What are you doing? Why, well, he might say, okay, actually, I did change the photo. I don't know if you're aware, but YouTube takes a while to actually change the cover photo. I did change it. I didn't see your text until about 6 in the morning. I switched it, and around noon it should change, right? The boss usually only cares about the end result. So I think as long as you would communicate, you have to figure out, who do you work for? Do you work for somebody that's a fucking lunatic and that needs everything done right away all the time, which sometimes I feel like I'm that way. I feel like I might get a little pushy that way, but I also am smart enough to realize people don't need a boss. That time is over with. People don't need bosses. They need coaches. They need people to help them coach them through their fucking life. And I feel like I have enough life experience to where I can share information with you and I can say, Andrew, I've been down that fucking road before, dude. That's a slippery slope, trying to be the best in the world at something. Just try to be a little bit better every day. And somebody else will tell you the best. Somebody else will come up to you and be like, dude, I don't know what you're fucking doing with that podcast, but that shit's the best fucking podcast I've ever seen. You're going to be like, what? Wait, what'd you say? And you'll be like, really?
Nuh-uh.
You're like, fuck, okay, cool. And then you're going to go back to work. And then someone else will tell you. Someone else say, that's a fucking cool. I don't know what you guys are doing over. And you're just going to hear it over and over again. People will tell you you're great. People are going to ask you to fucking consult. People are going to ask you for this and that. People are going to start sending you fucking free shit. And you're just not going to even remember how any of it happened.
Right.
Because you have your fucking nose down and because you're working hard. But people don't typically respond well to being bossed around. It's a lot easier when you try to coach them through stuff and you try to show people that you care. Andrew's not going to be here at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night trying to finish something up if he doesn't think that I care about him. If you don't think that I care about your family, you're like, fuck this place, right, man. Like a lot of people in those situations, they'll not only not put the work in for you, they'll also end up stealing shit from.
Yeah, they'll sabotage everything.
They'll end up fucking up everything, and rightfully so. People shouldn't be treated that way. They shouldn't have to. They shouldn't have to go through a lot of that. But some people, that's the only way they know how to do business. Now, when it comes to certain things with your work and trying to reposition yourself, I want to explain why I told him on Wednesday how he has to prepare for a workout on Friday. Because a lot of people, they get obsessed about these supplements. They get obsessed about taking these pre-workouts. And there's some fantastic supplement companies out there. And there's some people that make really great products. And they make products that can get you hyped up for a workout. But there's nothing that can replace being like feeling good and being refreshed. And so on Wednesday, if you start thinking about, oh yeah, those guys do train at 7 a.m. So Wednesday, like, okay, maybe Thursday night, because the guys end up training and they train late. And maybe if I'm hanging around the gym and I'm there later, maybe I'm not going to sleep that great Thursday night going into Friday. Maybe Wednesday I get a little extra rest, or maybe somewhere on Friday I try to sneak in a little extra sleep, or maybe I try to sneak in a nap somewhere, or maybe I just plan out on Thursday night that I'm going to eat more. On Wednesday, you start to plan out that you're going to eat more on Thursday for that Friday morning workout so that you can fucking feel good. Mm-hmm. You know that you're going to train at 7. So then you got to start to think to yourself, on Wednesday, how am I going to position myself to have the best possible workout on fucking Friday? You want to talk about a pre-workout? That's your pre-workout right there. You start thinking about that stuff early. And as you start to obsess about this, when you start getting into squats, benches, deadlifts, bodybuilding, CrossFit, any of these things, you can start to think about, what is the skill that I'm going to be working on that particular day? If you're a bodybuilder, it might be leg day. So now you're going to think, man, when I go in there on fucking Friday, I'm going to train my legs as hard as I'm starting to get my mind ready now, because I don't have another hard workout until Friday. I'm going to start getting my mind right now, as maybe you're working out and you're thinking and you're doing a cardio session, and you're thinking about that next workout that you're going to do. And you're thinking about how hard you're going to push, and you're thinking about, hey, when I tell the rest of the group that we're going to do 4 sets of 10, on every set that we do, I'm going to do fucking 12 reps. Or on every set that we do, I'm going to do a little extra weight, or I'm going to be the last guy standing. I'm going to make sure of it. When I used to When I used to compete, I was a fucking maniac. I was the first person in the squat rack, last person in the squat rack. Everybody just finally, at the end, they'd be like, dude, how many sets are you doing? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I don't fucking care. I'm doing a lot more than you are. I don't know. I'm just here and I'm fucking going. And the only person that could really stand up to a lot of that was Jesse Burdick. He and I would like just start to fucking stare at each other down from across the room, and we'd be pissed. We'd go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I used to cut people off. You know, somebody would like bend down to tie their shoe, and I'd take their weight off. I'd put my weight on, or I'd put extra weight on, or whatever it was I was doing. And they're like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, I'm fucking going again. I don't know where you're at. I don't know where the fuck your mind's at, but it's because I put so much pressure on myself and because I prepared all week for that. And people talk about dynamic effort and they talk about max effort. You want to have a maximum effort, get your fucking mind right. You want to have a dynamic effort. You want to be as fast as possible. Well, think about it for a couple of days and think about how you're going to fucking break the bar in half. And think about how you're going to break the goddamn squat rack because you're going to, lift so fast. Those were some of the things that went through my mind when I was lifting, and those are things that helped me get prepared for each and every workout. You can treat anything else like that. You could treat anything else like that. Just the other day, my wife, she wanted me to go to lunch with her. And I was working. And I just texted her back and I said, when this company is where it needs to be, I'll have lunch with you every day. Nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's I'm really happy with the company. I fucking love it. I love waking up in the morning. I'm excited. I'm excited to come here. I'm excited to train at Super Training. I'm excited to talk about knee sleeves and all the possible things that we have coming up. I'm excited to talk about the podcast.
Yeah.
But I want to keep making everything better. And I have already gotten a lot of things to the point where I can ease off on certain things. I mean, I've already eased off on the way that I train. I still work out really hard. I still push it hard. But there has been a lot of things where if I set it up correctly, then I set myself up in a better position. Going to our beach house is a good example. The type of food I eat nowadays. Mm-hmm. Most people can't afford people will tell me all the time, like, I can't afford the way you eat. Well, of course you can't afford the way I eat. You didn't fucking do the work that I did. Mm-hmm. I fucking worked my ass off to get in this position. And there's very specific reasons why I worked myself. This is the life that I wanted to live. I wanted to push myself into this spot. And so this is where I'm at. I'm eating fucking $28 steaks at almost every meal. I mean, that's just what happens after a period of time. I know some people might be like, oh, he's an asshole or whatever, but that's just.
But I mean, people can do their own thing. Like, I'm definitely not eating.
Absolutely.
I'm not eating, this $28 steaks, but I am eating hamburger meat. It's still red meat. It's not, super high quality, but I'm still following, similar diet like you, and I'm able to make it happen. And
I've done the diet that way before too.
Right.
And I've done the diet with cold cuts. I've done the diet with fucking, different cured meats and cheeses and like, all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of different ways of doing it. You don't have to, that's what people keep like, you have filet mignon every meal. I'm like, yeah, I know, motherfucker. I love the taste of it. So I'm going to keep buying it. I'm going to keep getting grass-fed butter and stuff like that. But it doesn't have to be taken to that extreme. But at some point, everyone has to care about their health. At some point, everyone has to care about their strength. That's why I always say strength is never a weakness. At some point, you're going to be on your fucking deathbed and you're going to be like, I wish I could just get up one more time. I wish I could just fucking walk down the goddamn hallway so I can walk out of this fucking hospital. But you won't have the strength for it. Everyone at some point is going to fucking pay the ultimate price. Everybody at some point is going to wish that they were stronger. They're going to wish that they were healthier. And that includes me. I'm not immune to it. I'm not going to live to 175 years old because I work out hard.
Right.
It just doesn't work that way.
So, don't mean to hijack or switch gears too far, but you're talking about people lifting or, prepping Wednesday. Oh, lights clicking on. Somebody tried to open the door. So, as far as,
that was scary.
Yeah. Prepping Wednesday for Friday's hard workout. But what about your average everyday, household mother or father, whatever, like not your person that's going to just kill the weights. Like, can they have the same mentality as that?
Yeah, I think they should too. I think they should because, for your average, let's say soccer mom or somebody, right? Or your average, your average person that's driving their kid back and forth to baseball practice or whatever it might be. There's just it's a different level of intensity. There's people at different intensity levels, and so but it still doesn't matter. I mean, the workout is still important. I tell people this all the time. Don't sell yourself short on how important the workouts are.
Right.
The exercise is huge, and if you're somebody that's trying to get involved in it, it's important that your performance in the gym is good. And so some people might say, oh, I want to try this diet, and then right away the first thing they do is they try to go into a caloric deficit. They feel like shit, and they have crappy workouts, and they're like, oh, well, I'm just taking the good with the bad because I know that this diet's gonna do this and that, and I know no, it shouldn't be that way. Your workouts are important. It's important that your workouts are strong, and it's important that your workouts are powerful. And so over a period of time, you can lower your calories and you can do things like that. But in the beginning, you want to keep them high. And when it comes to getting prepared for a workout, there's no better way to get prepared for exercise than to think about it several days ahead of time. My boy Nico, who just walked in the room here, who's got a fight, he knows better than anybody when it's a time for, you can have him chime in on that mic a little bit if you want, or you can chime in on this one if you want to make this one hot.
I can turn that one on.
Yeah, turn it on. Turn it on. Get over here, Nico.
On that yellow one.
Get over here, Nico. Put the headphones on, buddy. Over here. What's up, bud?
All right. So for anybody who may not know, Nico's been training with Mark.
Nico Lozada, ladies and gentlemen. He's on the Power Project.
Yeah, just pull that microphone close to you.
Long time listener. First time on.
He's one of those guys. He's going to say this is his first time, but he's really a veteran.
Been around.
He's going to be like, oh, I've never done this before. I've never podcasted with these lights on and my pants around my ankles.
I've been quite a few times with my pants around my ankles.
So we were just talking I was talking to Andrew about like a Friday morning workout. And he was talking about hitting up some of these workouts that we do at 7 a.m. And I told him on Wednesday, we got done with our workout, and I was explaining to him, if you want to do some of these morning workouts, you can't really think about them like the morning of. You can't wake up at 5 and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go try to be at the gym at 7. And you can't think about them even the night before. It's got to happen way in advance. Mm-hmm. Do you do that sometimes with you're a professional fighter, you got a fight coming up this Saturday. Do you sometimes especially something like, let's just hype, what's a weakness for you sometimes in MMA? Like if there is one?
I'd say the biggest weakness starting out was wrestling.
So there you go. So you know what? I'm going over with fucking Team Alpha Male, and I know we're going to do a lot of grappling today. We're going to work on a lot of technique, and you know what? Or not even that day, you think about it a couple days ahead of time, I'm going to go over there, I'm going to fucking tear it up. Mm-hmm. When I go over there, they're going to see you're going to see the improvements. Everyone's going to see it. Everyone's going to fucking feel it. People are going to comment on it. Have you ever put those words in your head, that positive self-talk like that?
Yeah. Actually, I believe you said it before, but get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's the thing. So having that mindset, focusing on your weakness, whether for you guys, it might be, some of your lifting, maybe your deadlifts aren't as strong. And so instead of being like, well, yeah, I'm just going to go work arms because I know I'm good at that. I spent when I came to Alpha Male, I pretty much only wrestled for the first couple of years. And even then, you still feel like a kid that maybe in junior high wrestling at that level. Training with some of the best in the world, you go in to practice, you get those nerves knowing like, oh, I'm going to get my ass worked, and it's going to be a push, but you got to get uncomfortable or get comfortable being uncomfortable. So working the things that you don't want to work, really focusing on those more.
Yeah, when you go in and you think, oh, I know today that we're going to predominantly work on like grappling and wrestling, and like I fucking suck at it. What kind of workout do you have then?
Oh man, so some of the crazier rounds are when you go in you drill hard at Team Alpha Male when you're wrestling. You're drilling hard the whole time. So from start to finish, we like to joke around. We have zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3. Zone 1 is kind of just like a slow round, but we're always on zone 3. So we're drilling hard. So once
there's really no such thing as zone 1 and zone 2.
No, zone 1 and zone 2 are really just like, I guess so you don't skip steps, but no, we're always in zone 3. And so by the time we go to our live wrestling rounds, which would be a wrestling match, or we would spar, first takedown wins, first takedown pin wins. So you're exhausted, and then the coach tells you, all right, guys, we got 3 matches now. And you're like, oh shit, like, what am I going to do? And you got to push yourself. You got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it's those days that you have that you're forcing yourself to be there that actually matter the most.
Something I think is awesome that they do in MMA and sometimes in wrestling and stuff like that is they'll put a fresh guy in there with you sometimes like
Shark
every
Tank.
minute or every 30 seconds or
We call
something.
that Shark Tank.
So we did that in pro wrestling as well. We're running these pre-choreographed. I know. Everybody just relax. It's sometimes pre-choreographed. I know. We do these, they're called wrestling spots, and you do a series of moves, right? And so like I'll do a series of moves to you, then you do a series of moves to me, and then Andrew would come in and like attack you, and then you guys would go at it, and we'd cycle through like a bunch of people, but you'd be fucking dead after you did that. If you did that with like 5, 6, 7 people, you'd be fucking shot. That's got to be terrible for that.
For all the people that look at professional wrestling, I get they kind of know what's going to happen, but being slapped by somebody Mark's size in the chest, being slammed down, that doesn't feel right. When I get taken down,
why do you have a boner?
I'm glad it's behind the screen.
Fuck.
We're talking about this kind of stuff.
He really loves podcasts.
Yeah. Man, I'm getting all hot and
That's what I'm talking about. But so along the lines of what
we have a hard time making weight with that thing. Jesus Christ.
What we were just talking about though. So imagine if you woke up one day and said you were just going to go train in the Shark Tank. You had to prep to do that, right?
Yeah.
Like many days in advance.
Well, yeah, it's a mental preparation. Like I look at every fight and it's funny that we look forward to fighting. Like this weekend, I'm going to get to go kick someone's ass when,
that's so crazy.
I look at it almost like this weekend I'm going to be in a train crash.
Ugh.
Literally my body, like it's going to be crazy. So you got to mentally prepare your body, prepare your mind to go through that. And the Shark Tank is one of those things that really emulates, how well you're going to do. Having a fresh guy every round, those guys are not tired at all. You're putting in, 3 5-minute rounds or 5 5-minute rounds. With a new guy every minute, that it becomes very difficult, and you tend to kind of almost accept things. And that's when you see people starting to accept things like guys taking them down now instead of them, even though they've been in the whole time, now all of a sudden they're starting to get taken down. You'll see the mindset of a fighter. Is he going to accept that yes, I'm tired and I'm just going to let him take me down. I'm going to take my time getting up.
You can see it like, as a fan of the sport. And I never want to be disrespectful to the sport because I think it's kind of the ultimate form of sport. Having this degree of fighting, I think is fucking awesome. So I'm never going to say anybody in the ring is a coward. However, when you see someone start to cower, they start to get defeated, you sometimes will see their eyes kind of move to the side and they're like, fuck, I got taken down again. You can see them getting like demoralized when someone fights like Daniel Cormier or someone fights Bones Jones, or like they're just like, okay, I fucking tried a bunch of stuff. None of it's working. This motherfucker's taking me down again. And they start to kind of accept everything that's happening. Right?
And it goes back to your original question of preparing yourself mentally. Are you prepared to quit? Are you prepared to go regardless of how you feel, the situation you're in?
You have to have some sort of conversation with yourself before. If you and I were gonna fight, and you know that I'm fucking great at wrestling, even though you don't want to get taken down, there has to be some sort of conversation in your head like, I might get taken down a bunch of times, but you know what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to fucking give up.
Yeah, I'm gonna bounce up right away.
Figure out a way to get up, and I'm going to figure out a way to keep a lot of pressure on him. So he's like, all I could do is take the guy down, but I can't really figure out how to do anything else.
Oh, yeah.
Then you start kicking me upside my head when I'm tired or in the side. now we got a different fight going on, right?
Well, and you'll see that one of my teammates, Darren Elkins, he literally he uses his face as like a catcher's mitt. People are throwing fastballs at his face all day long, and he's eating them. And one of his most recent fights, he was getting his ass kicked for like the whole 3 rounds. I think it was a minute and a half left in the third and final round, where he starts turning around, and you can tell the guy threw everything, including the kitchen sink, at him, and kind of looked like, what the hell, man? Like, what am I gonna do? This guy will not go away. And that's the mindset that Elkins had. He ended up not only taking the guy down and starting to beat on him. When the guy was panicking and stood up, he got head kicked and knocked out. I've never seen a guy smell his own ass. But Elkins made a guy smell his own ass, and that's the mindset. If you look at Darren Elkins' fights, that guy has every time been willing to die, but in the same set, he's not gonna die. He's accepted that he's willing to die, but he's not gonna die because you're gonna break before him, and he's willing to go further.
As a fighter that's at Team Alpha Male, I mean, they got a fucking crazy high standard going over there. How many fights have you had in the last couple years?
I was trying to count those the other day. This year I've had 2. I'm about to have my 3rd one.
That's pretty active. Fuck.
Yeah, I like to be active. Normally I like to fight like 3 or 4 times a year at least. The most I've done is 5. I had 1 year where I fought, I mean, maybe twice. Sometimes injuries happen, things like that. But I like to stay active. This is my 10th fight with Team Alpha Male.
Oh, cool.
So this is where I feel like things, it's funny, all this work you put in, everything's starting to come together. The wrestling, the striking, coming here with you guys, I've gotten a lot stronger now. For those of you guys that don't know, this is super training is the best strength training, powerlifting, everything that I've ever been to.
It's been fun having you be part of it, and it's been like just an interesting thing because like it wasn't like I sat Nico down and I was like, hey man, here's kind of like what's gonna, like, it really wasn't. I know that you've been following along anyway, and that Charlie and stuff, but there was it was more like I work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7:00 if you want to come in and train, and then it just turned into a thing.
Yeah. Well, I think it was funny. One of the things you said after the first couple of weeks was like, man, you just keep showing up, and I think I said to you, like, you're going to have to ask me to leave. I'm going to be offended, but I'm probably still going to try to show up. So, but yeah, no, just the mindset here, everything, you are who you surround yourself around. If you can't have a $1 million mindset around, dollar mines, you got to have the people that are willing to drive, be driven with you, put their feet in the ground. And we've had our days where we're exhausted. We go meet up for coffee at 5 a.m. and then come here and put in the work. And not only that, then I'm going and sparring after here. So coming here and training that mindset where I'm exhausted going into my practices from, we're deadlift, we're, pushing the tank, we're going a minute on the rows, sprints. And so I'm that mindset.
I put you through a real pressure cooker on that bike the other day.
Exactly. And then he took the seat off, so it was just the post, and it was like a spin class, so you had to keep going up and down, and I still have a bruise.
But talk about that.
It was confidentiality. Sorry, guys. But yeah, no, just coming in, and like you said, training that mindset. I come in every morning exhausted already, because we're getting up early. I worked a lot the day before. We come in here and we train that mindset. No matter what, we're going to be in here for that hour and a half. We're going to work our ass off no matter what.
Right.
We puke, in which I did a few times. I know I did. And we keep going. And so that's the mindset. And then you carry on to the next challenge in your day. Because it never stops,
I think when you get it right, you should be kind of nervous. I remember, when I trained at Westside Barbell and when I was doing professional wrestling, I was I mean, I was not only a little bit nervous. I was a lot of bit nervous almost every fucking day. They would say, "All right, Bell, go up in front of the class. You do a 40-second promo on John Cena. You're fighting him at a pay-per-view March 31st. Ready, go." And you're like, kick his ass March 31st because I'm better than he is. And you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
And you got to go up and do it in front of like 40 of your peers. Or, you have to have an impromptu match with somebody out of nowhere. You're not allowed to talk about it beforehand, but you got to go fucking, do it in front of everybody. When it came to lifting at Westside, the intensity level was so fucking crazy. Everyone in there was squatting 800 pounds or more. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. You walk in the gym, they got the music blasting, the monolifts, the squat racks and stuff were more towards the back of the gym. Actually, there was only one monolift there. I never figured out why, because it was a huge gym, but there's only one monolift there. And it would be very, very rare for somebody new to venture towards the back, because that's where the fucking action happened, and that's where all the intensity was. And it's probably a similar mindset at Team Alpha Male. I mean, I know it's a business as well, so there's probably they're catering to some kickboxing classes and so forth, but there's probably some spots where there's some fucking real fighters where when you first see people walk in, they're probably like, I'm gonna kind of stay like over here where there's like classes going on and not go near where they're gonna kill each other.
Well, and that's the cool thing about being at gyms like Team Alpha Male and being here. At Team Alpha Male, if you're just doing the normal classes, but you also are seeing the pro practice going on, you're like, dang, these guys, that's how hard I got to work, and it kind of increases your mindset. You want to start working harder.
Right. And
then same thing in here. There was some days where I'd come in like, oh, I probably shouldn't be lifting too much weight. I'm an MMA fighter, and you guys start doing some heavy squats, and it's like, well, I want to get in on that. So it's kind of like that, you kind of want to be at that level of your surrounding.
Fighting is fucking crazy because for some reason you just everybody thinks they can do it.
Yeah.
We all know there's some technique to boxing. We all see the technique to grappling. But when you look at somebody who's really athletic, or you look at somebody who's really strong, look at somebody who's really big, for some reason it's ingrained in our head. Maybe some of it does come from like pro wrestling, where you had guys like Hulk Hogan and The Undertaker and Andre the Giant and some of these people over the years that were massive, beating the shit out of people. You always think the bigger guy is going to win, but something like jiu-jitsu, the UFC has proven something totally different, because you had Hoist Gracie in the first couple UFCs just fucking kick the shit out of people. When did you start to kind of find this stuff, and you're how much do you weigh?
Right now I got weigh-ins tomorrow, so right now I'm about 143. I normally walk around about 155.
What is all this? I mean, all this must have given you a lot of security being a smaller person. I mean, you can handle yourself in any sort of, not that you had insecurities going in, but you can handle yourself in any situation, regardless whether somebody's big and strong.
Yeah, well, and that's the good thing about martial arts is, before you're like, yeah, I'm going to be able to, handle myself. And now when people start problems, I'll be able to handle it. You kind of gain a confidence, and you kind of like that chip off your shoulder goes away. And it's almost like you don't.
It's kind of like having big arms. So people have this perception. They're like, man, okay, this is fucking cool. I found what I love to do. And they're 12 years old, 13 years old. They're like, I'm going to train my fucking arms all the time. I'm going to have huge arms, and I'll never wear a fucking long sleeve shirt again for the rest of my life. As soon as someone has 18, 19, especially 20-inch arms, you will very, very rarely see somebody with 20-inch arms wearing a fucking tank top.
Yeah.
It's really rare, because at that point they feel so good about it.
They don't need to show it
They're like,
off.
everybody already knows how big my goddamn arms are.
Yeah, it's funny. Like same thing when I started.
You don't need to
flex.
flex. Same thing. Yeah, you don't need to flex your muscle. People are like, all right, dude, I already know you kick people in the face for a living.
No, and it's funny because when I started, I would like, oh, look how hard I can kick, look how fast I can, know. And now it's kind of like somebody's like, hey, show us this, and I'm like, I don't really want to.
Have you noticed a difference in your training now that you've been training with us? Well, I should say super training. Not necessarily.
No, it's honestly, it's been a complete 180. I could feel the strength in practices. Like I said, one of the things is the mindset. So going into practice tired, already knowing, I've been training that way so hard now that I recover so much faster because of it. Definitely wrestling strength, top pressure, all of that has been a lot better. Cardio's is great. All around, like I said, this gym has helped me revamp and reassess everything that I need to do for my fighting, and
A lot of
it's
this
going to
is-
show this weekend.
A lot of this is mental. You know, people don't really, people have not really seen the morning workouts that much. We filmed them a little bit, but the only way to really understand these morning workouts is to actually do them. A lot of times, I mean, sometimes we get in here and we're chatty. Other times we get in here because it's the morning, we're not really saying much, and everyone just starts to follow kind of along with what we're doing. Sometimes we fucking kill each other, and sometimes it's not that bad, but usually there's 3 or 4 rounds of 3 or 4 usually there's 3 or 4 rounds of sometimes anywhere between 4 all the way up to like 8 different exercises. And we might do a farmer's walk. We might push the tank. We might push the expo sled, drag the regular sled. And then we might, pick up one of those heavy med balls and walk back. And you're like, each thing you're doing, you're dying on it. We'll go through it 3, sometimes 4 times. And the last time we always try to kick it up a notch. And then there'll be more stuff that follows it. And the intensity is actually, it's actually so hard that, I had my blood work done recently, and my C-reactive protein, which is your marker of inflammation, mine was like through the roof which is not a good thing, but it shows that you're overtrained in a way. But some of this was intentional. I mean, I'm not trying to hurt myself or fuck myself up, but I'm trying to stick it to myself. I'm trying to make myself better, and sometimes you're going to overdo it.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed too is actually having my physicals and stuff done. They did mention that blood pressure and everything they're like, it's phenomenal. You know, my everything's improved by getting up every morning early and forcing myself to do the work. That's the biggest part. Like the Ultimate Warrior says, you just got to do the work.
Yeah,
and be intense with it.
Well, Ultimate Warrior, some of those for people that haven't watched, I know people will think, oh, the Ultimate Warrior, like he's going to yell and scream. Yes, sometimes some of his promos he does, and some of those are excellent too. But where he's just giving you flat out information, some of them are fucking great. He's got great life lessons in there. He actually has one talk where he starts to talk about, this is if you look up Mr. Ultimate Warrior, his wife has kind of taken over some of the YouTube stuff, and she's been posting more stuff on there recently. But man, there's some really big gems in there. But the main thing that he says is he's like, man, you can buy all these fucking books. You can buy all these books about business. He's like, I read them all. I've looked at them all. He's like, they all talk about, how you plan this. He goes, but what's really in the center of all these books is doing the fucking work. And it's not about me doing your work. It's not about you doing mine. It's about you doing your own shit.
And that's a problem a lot of people have. They tend to look for excuses or reasons for why they didn't succeed in what they wanted. I can't blame you for if I lose a fight. You gave me the workouts. This is what we're doing. If I didn't push myself, then that's my fault. And that's the problem that a lot of people have. They buy into those books. They buy into the fitness, gurus or all the top
triple
magazines.
chinned.
Yeah, the triple chin, pudgy belly motherfuckers.
That's what he says.
But no, it's crazy because we want to find an answer. We want a lot of people want the easy way. I want to say I want the easy way. A lot of people want the easy way out. They want the cake and they want to eat it, but like you said, you got to just do the work. That's the most important part.
Yeah, it's a huge part of it. And when it comes to like MMA, it comes to powerlifting, it comes to bodybuilding, it comes to making it high level of anything really. It's what we end up admiring the most. I've always loved. I've been watching UFC since UFC 1. Have you been following along for the whole time?
I have. I somewhere in one of my we call them childhood boxes or memory boxes.
You got like a VHS tape?
I have the VHS of the first one.
God damn, that was so good. I wish they would bring back the old logo of the guy, like the guy who kind of looked like a gorilla. He's like pounding his chest.
It literally was like a blue and white one or something. Yeah.
No, that was sick. And remember, like the sport was like outlawed, and they could only fight in like Colorado or something.
Casinos, Colorado, other countries. Japan was like, you can come over here anytime you guys want.
Yeah, because they had pride. They had pride over there. What do you think about some of the rules? Are like, would you rather see that there's just no rules, or do you like to see some like I've heard Joe Rogan talk about they should fight like on a basketball court. I've heard other people say they should fight in a field.
Honestly, I think all of these are interesting ways. I don't think necessarily there needs to be one way. One thing I will say with MMA though, you'll you know. And in jiu-jitsu, a lot of times I love jiu-jitsu, and I still train gi every day. One of the things, and
you look gi.
And we yeah.
I had to throw that in there.
I set myself up. But no, like one of the things that, you know, we talk about at our school though is, yes, this is jiu-jitsu, you're training self-defense, but you also got to remember that somebody could still pull a knife, somebody could still punch you. So a lot of these positions may not be practical in the street, you know. Same in MMA. If you think about it, you know, if I pull guard in a fight on the street, you know, one, that's cement, you know, two,
well, he might have a buddy who stomp your fucking head, right?
He's got buddies that stomp it, you know. So I look at it as like, you know, I like the fact that, you know, Ryzen and Pride had the head kicks on the floor. And stomps and stuff like that, because that, if I was in a life or death situation, that's I'm throwing. I might even pick up something and swing it at you, you know. Like, so that I think that I would love to see more of the original rules. Maybe Bellator or Ryzen could bring back the Wild West, you know. The same thing with all the USADA and people, you know, doing steroids and stuff, you know. It's a performance enhancing drug, you know. The key point.
You're automatically linked to being on steroids, super training.
No, well, that's where everyone's like, "Hey man, how'd you get so big?" And I tell them it's the B12 shots that you give me.
It's the B12. Yeah.
So yeah, but
the B12 shots that are loaded with Tren.
But the biggest thing I think is I would love to see just the level playing field. So you're not gonna ever get the sport 100% clean,
right?
And I think that some of the Japan organizations have embraced it. So that's kind of, you know, my next thing is I would like to eventually go and fight in Japan at Ryzen.
Right.
So if you're listening, old Pride owner, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think the UFC is also still very entertaining, and the way they do things now. You do, as a fighter, you want to protect your safety. You know, so you don't want to take a head kick on the ground but do you want to be the guy head kicking the guy on the ground, right? So it's a give or take. I'm all for all of it. So the basketball court thing, I think, would be awesome, because that's another thing in a situation in a street. If somebody was in a fight, you know, and I have the ability to run, and you know, I'm pretty sure I can outrun you.
I think so.
Yeah, I think.
You know, I think the ultimate thing about that is that it would really change like what the fighter looked like. You know, it's like maybe the size of the athlete would no longer matter at all. Yeah. If that was the case, if you had unlimited room and unlimited time, I mean, maybe you know, maybe the size of the athlete wouldn't matter. I mean, take like deadlifting, for example, right? If we you know, do reps with like 400 pounds, right? I can beat you on that. If we do reps with the bar, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. You know, if we just deadlift 45 pounds until somebody just fucking literally can't lift it anymore, now all of a sudden the odds increase in your favor. You know,
challenge accepted.
Oh God, could you imagine?
Man.
Even though it's just the bar, like that shit would hurt. We've done stuff like that with bench press.
I've seen you guys do the 30 rep of bench press, and that's with plates on it though. So.
Yeah, that sucks. When I was training for some WWE type shit back in the day, I was training at a place called UPW, Ultimate Pro Wrestling, and they had a facility at or they had training at a place called LA Boxing, and LA Boxing was in Huntington Beach, and that was I think that gym may have been owned by Tito Ortiz, or he had some affiliation with that gym, or at least trained there here and there. Whatever the case is, there was some MMA fighters there. The guy who broke me in the wrestling business, Tom Howard, my coach, he did some fighting. A lot of guys would go over to Japan and they would do, pro wrestling stuff. They would do shoot stuff, which was kind of half pro wrestling, half of it real, and it was it was crazy because you didn't know what you were getting yourself into. Like when you went over to Japan, you weren't sure, what kind of match they were going to set you up with, but then you would know by the way you got paid, you would make a lot more to actually do a regular fight. But anyway, these guys are always training hard. They're always doing kickboxing and jiu-jitsu and all these different things. And I started to become more familiar with it at that time. And I've taken a little bit of jiu-jitsu before and stuff like that. And I had some familiarity with it, but I didn't know always what they were doing, training wise. So I go in there one day, and I know they have like these self-defense classes and stuff too, where they're disarming people of baseball bats and things like that, right? So I walk in, and these guys are screaming at each other, and this guy's got a baseball bat, and the other guy's got a knife, and I was like, oh shit, this is kind of cool. And I kind of like lean up against the ring, and I start watching it, and then I'm like, holy fuck. I'm like, this is fucking real. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this is actually real. The guy's talking about like money that the other guy owed him or whatever. And it was just fucking crazy. The guy charged the other dude with a knife. The guy blocks it like something out of a goddamn, Chuck Norris movie, flips the guy on the ground, gets the guy in an arm bar. Another guy comes flying over, and it just starts this fucking melee of all these fighters just fucking going at it. I was like, my brother was with me, my brother Mad Dog, and we were just luckily not he and I weren't involved in that fucking ordeal, but we were just watching it. I think Cena might have been with us at the time. He was we got him involved in wrestling at UPW, but we were just watching it and we were just fucking horrified. We were like, oh my God. But had that been somebody who didn't know how to defend themselves, we would have saw somebody getting shanked. Instead he fucking flipped the guy on the ground. The other thing that happened when I was in Southern California area is the bar that I used to work at was kind of near Torrance, California, which is where Hoist Gracie started his jiu-jitsu academy. I didn't have any idea that was right there. I didn't really know who was who and what was going on and all these different things. Some of the fighters would come in every once in a while, and I'd noticed the cauliflower ear, and one of the guys that would come in, and I actually ended up training him for a while, was Higan Machado. To the Machado brothers, they had their own school and everything too. But one of the guys that I worked with is like, he goes, dude, he's like, I don't know where you worked before or how it was, but he goes, never just grab anybody and never just chuck them out, man. He's like, it ain't worth it. And I was like, why, dude? Like people carrying guns or knives? And he's like, no, man, they know jujitsu. And I was like, I kind of knew about jujitsu, but I didn't know that much about it. I was like, really? I was like, well, what happened? Like if I just, he's like, they'll fucking choke your ass out. Somebody will fucking break your arm. I'm like, are you fucking serious? And he's like, dude, he's like, I'm dead serious. He's like, these little fuckers, man. Yeah. He's like, they'll be super strong because you don't fight that way. You don't know anything about it. You'll get fucked up. And it was actually like a few weeks later that somebody at one of the other bars went and grabbed somebody. And sure enough, the guy fucking just yanked on his arm, and that was it. The guy's arm was hanging, his shoulder was fucking out of socket or whatever the hell the guy did to the other guy. And it's like, it's a pretty amazing craft to know, to be able to protect yourself in those situations,
That's the best thing about knowing stuff like that is you never, how they say never judge a book by its cover. You can have somebody that looks like a math teacher who is just nasty on the ground, and you have no idea. And we have a lot of guys like that at Casio's who come in, and you're like, if I was at the bar right now, like I'm like, oh, look at this.
You get to roll around with a natty professor every once in a while?
Yeah. He's, for those of you who don't know, he's been probably training for about 2 years now, I think, 2.5 years. And he is
about 3-4 days a week. I mean, he's in there quite a bit, right?
He's in there a lot. He's putting in the time. He's one of those. So he's a big guy. I would assume he's over 200 pounds.
Yeah, he's at least 250.
Okay, so he's a big guy, huge. Super strong, and he's learning small guy jujitsu. Yeah. So that to and I told him when we started rolling, I'm like, this isn't gonna be fair when you start learning more and more because now you have the muscle, but you're learning that small guy technique. So he's doing real well over there. He's actually competed quite a few times, won some gold medals. Now it got promoted to blue belt, I think.
Oh, that's cool.
About 4 or 5 months ago. So
I know he's really. I know what's great to see is great to see somebody excited about something. You know, it's really cool for someone to try something new and for them to be enthusiastic about it. I don't think enough people try new shit.
Well, and it's funny because we were, when we were talking, we were like, yeah, it's you come over to jiu-jitsu and now I'm going to your gym and we're like trading off. But it like you said, it's fun to try something new, be uncomfortable, you know, but, you know.
I definitely want to mess with some jiu-jitsu for sure.
So we got to get you in there.
I know that, you know, improving my flexibility would be just a major turning point in my life since I've never been flexible. And I've heard a lot of people say even just the simple act of fucking doing jiu-jitsu, you'll just become more flexible.
Or some Turkish oil wrestling where, where you got the shorts and they got to dig into your shorts.
Wait, what shorts are they?
They're like these leather shorts that you're all oiled up, and how you get the guys, you got to dig your hand into
What makes it Turkish?
I don't know.
Is it the oil?
The way that you get in there, I don't know. Maybe
you had me at oil.
Technique. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Huh. But yeah, no, we need to get you
I don't know if this fits my diet.
We need to get you into Cassio's though, or over at some jiu-jitsu. I think you'd be great at it. Like
I've heard he straightens people out every once in a while.
You know what's funny is he does.
That's what the master has to do that, right?
Yeah, you know, every now and then, you know,
I like that.
People come in with a chip on their shoulder, and you know, a lot of times it doesn't have to be the master because we have so many guys.
There's so many guys.
There's like a chain of command. I try to jump at this, and I'm like, oh, I'll get him, Cassio. Don't worry. You know, but like it's one of those things where people get humbled right away, and it's a great sport to be in. Anything that you're really doing to better yourself, you know, you gotta put 100% in.
Who's your favorite fighter?
Frankie Edgar, maybe. I'd say Frankie Edgar.
Frankie Edgar, man, that guy has some wars. You know, it's actually an interesting thing that even a lot of fighters, they learn all these techniques, and obviously Frankie Edgar, technique-wise, he knows a ton, right? But a lot of times the people that we admire the most are always these guys that just throw bombs and get into these crazy wars, right?
Well, so current active fighter Frankie Edgar, I should have said this first, the Iceman.
There you go.
The Iceman, Chuck Liddell.
We love the Iceman. The Iceman was awesome. You know, we had him on the podcast, and that'll be released soon. But I also I love that he was just so fired up. He was so fired up the whole time.
Some of those guys were the original legends. That
was like a perfect time. You know, the sport been around long enough to where it wasn't as savage as it was in the very beginning. At least there was some development of some weight classes, or some development, some rules, which I liked when there was less rules and stuff, and I liked when there was less weight classes. But at the same time, I like watching the sport, and I know too many people in the sport. I don't want to see people getting fucking hurt. It's good to see some good clean knockouts and things like that, but it sucks to see somebody get real permanent damage done to them. So I think at that time in the sport, it was just perfect, man. It was
and you had guys like BJ Penn fighting at light heavyweight. BJ Penn, who was the 155 champion, I think it was, and maybe 170, he fought at light heavyweight. Kenny Florian fought at 185 when he's a 145er. Guys were doing whatever they could to fight. They didn't care.
Was so fucking good.
Savages.
He's so good.
So I mean, don't get me wrong, the MMA game has evolved, and there are a lot of up and coming killers, and the evolution of the game is totally different. But just thinking about those guys and how savage they were, Chuck Liddell, every time he fought, man, you knew it was about to be.
There's some sports that go through evolution, and sometimes the evolution of the sport, it just leads you into a different time. It reminds me of strongman. You go back and anytime one of these strongman things pops up from like the 70s, it's fucking amazing. It's the coolest thing you ever seen in your life, because it's not dudes off the street, but they'll pick professional wrestlers. They had professional football players. You have like Lou Ferrigno and Franco Colombo is competing with like Ken Patera, who's like an Olympic wrestler, Olympic weightlifter, first American put 500 pounds over his head, and also a professional wrestler. So you get this dynamic of all these guys from all over the place, mixed in with the greatest power lifter of all time, or mixed in with this guy or that guy, and it was so much fun to watch. And the guy's like hauling a bus or something. It's like, or he's throwing
pulling
these
the trains and
things.
Pulling
The train. They almost like pull it on top of themselves because they didn't know how to set up the stuff for being safer. And this sport was similar, where a lot, like there was Tank Abbott.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even know if Tank Abbott would win any fights now. I love Tank Abbott. I love watching him knock people out. He was amazing, but I don't know. Like, people are so skillful now. Frank Mir or somebody would put him down and snap his arm, right?
Oh yeah, that's the game that's evolved. Is and like you said, with sport is going to evolve. Pro wrestling same way. Everything evolves. And you'll see. Each I guess generation, you'll see a better and better quality fighter. That doesn't mean that these guys weren't just savages, but like you said, the level's changing, and you're seeing a lot more exciting fights, and people just have to be more well-rounded. Tank Abbott was, knocking dudes out, and if I ran into him in the bar, I'd be looking at the other way. I'm not trying to start trouble with him.
Tank Abbott was fucking big, and he was angry.
I love this knockout.
Oh shit!
To look at his leg. Watch.
Yeah, he's getting a good stretch there.
Is that Ken or Frank? Oh, no, it's not. Oh,
no,
it's not.
Guy.
Oh, Guy Metzger.
There you go.
Wow.
But it's like how his leg gets pinned.
These guys threw with reckless abandon.
What's crazy too? It's like legend versus legend. You're like Jesus Christ. Guy Metzger was awesome too. He was a champion.
Oh, people forget Nick Diaz, Takanori Gomi. I've talked with them a few times. Dan Severn and
Dan the Beast Severn.
Don Fry, even like those guys
Don
are
Fry.
Crazy.
Don Fry with that epic fight. People, do yourselves a favor and watch that fight where he fights the Japanese guy. It's on YouTube. He fights that guy. That guy's huge too.
Trying to remember his name.
That guy's
off my head.
Well, if you just type in Don Fry, it's gonna fucking pop up.
It'll be the first fight. To
I
pop
think
up.
Don Fry was the first guy to put Vitor Belfort. I think he was the first, or maybe it was Randy Couture. One of the guys, like Vitor Belfort, was on a just tear. He fucking destroyed everybody. Remember, he came in and smoked.
Vitor too. Yeah,
he smoked
Vitor.
Tank Abbott. He smoked this guy. He smoked that guy. Then I think he got on too much shit and he got too big. I remember he came in one of the UFCs. He was like 235 or 240, and he was all traps. And I was like, this ain't gonna work out so good.
Started boom.
Randy Couture was a goddamn savage. I mean,
that was another one of my favorites. So
I love the professionalism of Randy Couture.
Yeah, back in high school, our wrestling coach from Wilcox, he lost to Kurt Angle for the Olympic trials, I believe it was.
Wow.
Good friends with.
We're working on getting Kurt Angle on the podcast too.
Oh, that'd be a good one. But he was good friends with all of them, and it was funny because he taught econ classes to us, and we just start talking about fights, and all of a sudden the books are closed and there's no lecture. But he would tell me that these Couture, Tito, all these guys like he wrestled with, they're just crazy guys who want to keep competing, and if it wasn't for that, I mean, where would this sport be? If it wasn't for Tito Couture, Liddell, how many fights did he have with Tito? And I mean, shoot, it was just great times back then.
So was Randy Couture just an anomaly? Like, he did it longer and harder than anybody, right?
Yeah, I think he won the light heavyweight belt at 46.
He might have been just on a different level. I know he was fucking rough and stuff when he fought, but like his wrestling was so good that maybe he was able to protect himself a little bit better than some of the other fighters.
I honestly think, and this isn't a jab at any other sport. I didn't wrestle a lot before high school.
There he is fucking
I didn't wrestle a lot
Vitor Belfort
before MMA.
Oh, yeah.
But one of the biggest things I think that transitioned well into MMA is wrestlers. The work ethic those kids have throughout from 6-7 years old all the way through high school to All American. When they're doing wrestling for college, the mindset they carry transfers better, I think, in MMA.
They do a lot of unconventional stuff in wrestling too. Those like neck bridges and stuff. Those are things that like you would never in a million years would you be even allowed to take somebody's 13-year-old kid and have to do some of these fucking crazy ass neck bridges.
The funny thing is, I have teammates that they're like, I don't know how these parents are. They're paying me to just beat the shit out of their kids, pretty much, and then they come and pick them up 2 hours later.
That's amazing.
And so I mean, honestly, I wish I grew up more doing wrestling. I got caught onto it later on.
Yeah.
But like I said, it transfers well to MMA. Not that boxing and all that doesn't, but you, like you said, back to your question with Randy Couture and avoiding shots and being able to do it for so long. We forgot another one, Dan Henderson. But both guys had high level wrestling and were able to avoid shots, avoid getting knocked out so many times. That I think it took a big part in the longevity of their career.
And it's pre-USADA days too.
Hey, let's not downgrade it like that.
I'm just saying.
I don't care what. I think they were all clean.
They're avoiding,
they were all clean.
Even if they still avoided those heavy shots.
Yeah. Yeah, no, even if, I think all of them are 100% clean. I think once USADA came in, I think they actually introduced steroids to UFC.
That makes sense.
Like, hey guys, you should be taking this, but we're going to test you for it.
Right.
A lot of the fighting that went on in like Pride, you would see the guys balloon up a little bit. You'd be like, man. Oh shit! Like all of a sudden, a guy gains like 10 pounds in his neck.
It's like, what are you doing? Oh, ate horse meat. It's the horse meat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The Mexican
goat
meat,
milk.
it has Clen in it.
Now I know where I'm getting steaks from. Canelo, if you watching this,
yeah.
I could use some cattle.
Yeah.
I love watching those old
Triple
fights.
G said that during the fight he can see his like tracks in his arm and shit.
Oh yeah, that's the thing is, if you can't be oblivious to the sport, at the highest level of any sport, there's gonna be like they say, if you're not cheating, you're not trying.
Right.
But
and it's not cheating unless you get caught.
Exactly. Like there's so many different things. I remember hearing on a podcast they were talking about the John Jones thing recently, and the guy from Balco with the Barry Bonds scandal, he came out and said
Victor
that
Conti.
He thinks that they were microdosing testosterone, and that just opens up a whole book of worms for me, because then I'm like, how many of these guys are probably microdosing testosterone then,
and where do I get it?
Well, that was my next question. And I've been coming to super training for so long, and the fact that I haven't been offered anything yet,
it's
so just beyond me. I'm looking for the guy with the fanny pack, but I haven't found him yet.
Cool. I'm glad you found that part of the script right there.
He's somewhere. It makes a huge difference. People always talk about your recovery. I don't know how much it helps in your like recovery. But steroids, one thing that they do is they can make you more aggressive, not like I'm mad aggressive. Gives you almost a sense of euphoria when you go to pick something up. Just think about this. You go to pick something up and you're able to manhandle it. That automatically gives your body some positive feedback. And so if you go to pick up like a sandbag in the gym, you go to pick up some dumbbells in the gym, and you're like, oh, fuck yeah, this feels good. You actually get a pump a little bit sooner. So it kind of creates a euphoria for you that gets you kind of into that almost heightened zone. It's almost like it's not just a mental drug, obviously, but it feels like, especially after doing it for many years, it feels like that's one area where it's really doing almost the most for. But I'll tell you, there's a huge difference between having your levels elevated and having them not elevated, because over the last about year and a half or so, my levels have not been elevated beyond an average range. I use some TRT, but I have not tried to take more than what's been prescribed to me. And so therefore, actually, when I started getting my blood work done in the beginning, my blood work was worse taking stuff and being on stuff for years than it was before I ever even touched anything. My like estrogen levels were higher. I was like, man, I'm turning into a girl. But that's because
I can't blame that on that, though.
Yeah, it's just because I want to be a female.
You always wanted to.
But a lot of it just had to do with you alter what your body can do forever, and that's a huge warning thing that
nobody wants to degress. Nobody wants to.
No.
I know guys that are bicycle riders or swimmers that actually one of my guys that I teach boxing to has Parkinson's. he does the Alcatraz swims and all those, and his biggest thing is he doesn't want to be able to stop, and they worry about that, and everyone worries about when it's going to be time to hang it up and stuff. And that happens eventually, but that's where like you said, the TRT and things like that, I think, if we can keep people, active as long as they can, we should be allowing it and not making it a crime, and then we're going to prescribe, let's say, like painkillers, though. We don't mind doing that. We don't mind selling alcohol, but we mind, people being healthier and being able to perform better, that I don't understand that.
Nico, where can I find info about your next fight?
So my next fight is this weekend, March 24th, Saturday, at Dragon House in San Francisco at the Keys Art Pavilion. There is a pay-per-view stream. I believe if you go on dragonhouse.com or Dragon House MMA, you should be able to find it. I also post a lot of things about my fights, so you can find me on Instagram at Nico Lozada, Facebook at Nico Guerrero Lozada. It's spelled just like Guerrero, but Portuguese, so we changed it up a little bit.
I just call him Nico Lasagna. Makes it easier.
Nico Lasagna, always frozen, never fresh.
There you go. Yeah, dragonhousemma.com. Can people still get tickets right now?
Yeah. Contact me if you need tickets. I believe they still have some online, but if contact me, we can get you guys a little discount, get you out there. I'd love to have everyone out there. I want to thank Super Training and Mark, everyone here at Super Training for pushing me through this camp. I feel great. For those of you, looking into wanting to get into fitness or MMA, like we said, just do the work, get in there. But yeah, thank you for having me, and thank you for all the support and pushing me through this camp.
No problem, man. And you have a food prep company as well?
I do.
So you're a busy fucking guy.
Yes, yeah. Forklifter Food. So we deliver meals to the Northern California area, so Sacramento, greater Sacramento area. None of our food's frozen. We cook everything the day of delivery. Cook twice a week to your order, and it's all healthy. It's all healthy food. We portion it out for you. We deliver it to your work, business, gyms.
That's awesome.
So yeah, if you guys want to get into that too, you can find us at Forklifter Food or forklifterfoodtruck.com. We own both sites, so it will direct you. And
gotcha. That's fucking cool, man. How'd you get into that?
I was actually a sponsored athlete, and the company was going to be closing up, and I had brought a lot of clients before, and I had teammates that brought clients. So it was one of those things where I just put all my eggs in that basket and jumped in, and it was a struggle at first, but luckily, with the help of the people around me and my team, we're doing great, and we're about to be in a bunch of different gyms here soon. So
awesome.
Things are looking great for us right now.
Fucking great, man. All right, awesome having you on the show. Strength
Thank
is
you.
never
I really
weakness.
appreciate it.
Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later.